Thank you for inviting me to do this. I am very nervous, so hopefully I'll get into the groove. This is a topic that I'm kind of passionate about. If you've hiked with me, you might know that. So a lot of the pictures here are my own that I've taken from various places I've lived and worked, a lot from here. My husband has taken a lot of the pictures as well, and then where I needed to fill in, I stole them off the internet and or out of books. So it's been a long time since I've done this. And I do have a lot of slides, so forgive me if I go a little fast. So I've had the fortune to live in quite a few different places in overseas, like Palau and Scotland and Alaska. Traveled to a lot of others where I get to adventure and see a lot of animals, and I've really become interested in the signs they leave. And if you've hiked with me again, you will know I'm not the fastest hiker because I'm often caught staring off into the sky or into the trees or in the brush or on the trail looking for signs of animals that have maybe come that way, or birds, or even signs of humans that were here in the past. I've been in Tucson now for about 5 years full time. I live here all the time in SaddleBrooke. But I've been visiting for a long time. And I moved here from Alaska. The winters just got to be a bit much. So why do we want to know how to identify signs of animals? There's quite a few, there's a few reasons I can think of, but like this is evidence of probably a flying squirrel up in Fairbanks that I came across on a trail, and a lot of people might just walk on by this. And I stopped and actually watched it, or looked at it for quite some time, and it's a squirrel just eating some spruce cones and leaving the debris laying around. And different species will leave them in different ways, so it's always fun to come across these. And so one for me is knowledge. I really enjoy learning about the animals, and animals are all around us, but we often don't see them. And so tracks and other signs are a window into the lives of these animals. They reveal their habits, their behaviors, and sometimes little life dramas. Like this is when I lived in Palau, and we went with the Palau Conservation Society to this tiny little atoll in the middle of nowhere. It was very small, and we were helping rangers monitor green sea turtles. And this is a green sea turtle that ran over my tent. And if you can see the tent, it's covered with bird poo. I was doing bird surveys. My husband and I mapped the island, which is less than 1 kilometer long and barely 500 feet wide. But there were hundreds of sea turtles that nested here. And she came up in the dusk and hit the vestibule of my tent and didn't stop. She just kind of went up and over the vestibule. And if you can see the front, there's claw marks where the vestibule was stronger than her, and she slid down and made an impression in the sand there. And then off she trundled and made her nest over there by the grass. So that was pretty cool. Some more signs. My husband sent these from Alaska. He was up there after the typhoon helping out, and he was going down the beach every day he could. And on the left there is a fox that went after a little vole, and you can see his fox tracks coming in from the lower left, and then he went out kind of on the upper left there, and then a raven came down to investigate what was going on. And up in the other picture up here is where a fox and a wolf are using a little tussock to leave a little scent mark, and that's kind of on the left-hand side there. You can see a little bit of discoloration, and the tracks are all muddled. It's hard to see, so I'm taking his word for it, but I can kind of see some fox tracks coming in, and he said there's a lot of big canine tracks in there as well. Another reason is that I find a great connection in learning about the animals and what's out there, because again, you don't see them very often, but when you see the signs of them, it kind of builds an empathy and understanding with the environment, and I find kind of a great pleasure and excitement in seeing those signs and knowing it's out there and that we are not alone. Makes me feel sometimes very small. And this is particularly important, like up in the Brooks Range. About 10 years ago, I did a rafting trip, and we landed in this beautiful mountainous region, and all we saw were signs of animals like these caribou sheds, and there were almost no animals, not even any birds. But when we made it out of the mountains onto the coastal plain, we started seeing a lot of signs of animals like these caribou tracks, and we saw tens of thousands of caribou. They never stop moving. They're always trying to escape the botflies and the mosquitoes that harass them all day long. And wolves, we saw wolves, and you can just see that this great empty plain with a lot of cotton grass and a very large track and some old river silts that was left there. And that was up in the mountains, and then when we got to the plain where the caribou were, there we saw the wolves. Safety is another issue because animals can be unpredictable. Big animals can be dangerous, they can hurt you, and you want to, if you know they're out there, you can be aware and watchful. The one on the left is an elk run that I found outside the town of Cedar Woolley where I got caught during COVID and spent a lot of time walking in this park. And I found this. I had no idea the elk were so close to town, and so this was kind of cool. It was spring, so I didn't feel like there was anything to worry about. But the other one on the right was a mountain lion track that I saw in a very remote canyon in the Galliero Mountains. It was Redfield Canyon, and we had gone down to see the Cliff House, and it was a long trek drive up there. We were out there, and you can see the environment was very brushy, and kind of if there was a mountain lion there, we weren't going to see it. And those tracks were only a few hours old. So that was kind of exciting and thrilling to see. And then, of course, there's always the bears. And back in the Brooks Range in July, I went on a little backpacking trip. And I told my friend from my last experience that we're not going to see any bears. I saw no bears. 2.5 weeks in the Brooks Range, and I didn't see a single bear or bear track. And within hours of hitting the tundra out of the plane, we saw all sorts of signs of bears. And they were digging up squirrels. We were hiking on a bear trail, and we saw lots of bear poop. And sure enough, that first day, we had my first bear encounter. And they were two young grizzlies that were very, very curious about us, and they smelled us from a long way away. We saw them a mile off, and they made a beeline right for us. And we had to get up on the tundra and stand there and yell at them. And my friend, I couldn't believe she took a picture, because I was not thinking about taking pictures. But you can see there was a lot of bear poop, and it's all over the place, and we're not walking on any trails except theirs, and so we were coming across it quite frequently. And in fact, we saw 6 bears on this trip, and it was the most of any animal we saw. We saw 1 caribou, 2 moose, 3 porcupines, and a few birds, and 6 bears. So when you see the signs, know your signs, be alert. I love this sign. I don't know if you can see the googly eyes that are on the mountain lion and the bear, but this was up at Kit Peak, and I just love that sign. So tracks and scat, it can be kind of daunting to kind of learn about them at first. It seems like a lot, but there's a lot of field guides out there. There's some really great YouTube videos for how to learn and distinguish, like bobcat from coyote or bobcat from mountain lion. And these are a couple of a track brochure and then a mammal scat of North America. The mammal scat one, this is one of the better ones I found, that doesn't seem to reflect reality 100%, but it's kind of the best. Some of them are very simplified. So I like that one. So I'll just go through some of my encounters with some other animals that I've had and show you some scat and tracks and some signs. Some of them have some pretty interesting stories to tell, so I'll share a few facts about the animals that have made those signs or tracks, and then I'll talk a little bit about how to identify some of the more common ones we have here. So in Alaska, there are a lot of eagles, and in the town I lived in Alaska were tons and tons of eagles. Our Christmas bird count usually had about 800 eagles on it. And as you can see, I love this picture of the track because you can see how big the bird's track is. I used to do some eagle rescue up there, and I've had them in my arms, I've had them in my truck, I've had them in my house, and those feet are pretty deadly. They have long claws, and when they grab you, they don't let go. They're also very messy. So it wasn't fun having them in my house because they smell bad, but you can see that they are what I call projectile poopers. This town I lived in had a street called Broadway, and it had light posts, and the eagles, because they were warm, liked to sit there in the winter, and you did not want to walk underneath. Whenever you saw the tail go up, you got out of the way. The other picture, the picture on the right is our landfill that we had, and we had to take our own garbage to the landfill. And the eagles and the ravens hung out there in droves, so I always took the landfill for the Christmas bird count, so I could count all the birds there, because The eagles are inside, they're roosting on the walls, they're roosting on the roof, and you can see they had to cover their equipment just to keep it free of the bird poop. They're on a shipwreck on this other picture, but again, you can just see there's bird poop everywhere. Ravens and a lot of raptors have that kind of habit, and you want to be very careful anywhere near. When you see them kind of wiggle and look like they're going to let fly, you get out of their way. Sea otters were also very common in Alaska, and kind of the interesting thing for me is I always just thought of sea otters being out in the sea, right? But they do haul out like any mammal, and they built a dock, and they used to haul out in that, and they made it really messy because they poop everywhere they haul out. And that's a little example of some of the poop, and it's really weirdly red, and I don't know if you can see the texture of it, but they were probably eating little crabs. Ptarmigan are one of my favorite little birds, and they have really interesting poop. It doesn't look like anything that you think of as bird poop because of the diet. They eat little buds and things. But you would see little piles of this. It's very distinctive, and you see little piles of this all around where they're hanging out because they'll sit in one place for a long time, especially in winter. This is a rock ptarmigan. Turkeys down here related to a ptarmigan in a distant way, and their poop is very different. Gould's turkeys are what we have here in southeast Arizona, and they are the largest of 5 subspecies, which were hunted almost to extinction by the late 1800s. There were none left here, but they remained in Mexico, and about 50 years ago or so, they reintroduced them to New Mexico and Arizona, and you are guaranteed to see them if you go to Madera Canyon. Pepper Sauce Canyon has them, and the Visitor Center at Chiricahua are always reliable places. Rabbits, we've got desert cottontails, and we've got black-tailed jackrabbits. Don't see the jackrabbits quite as often as you used to around here. Usually this is how I see them, running away from me. And they're very interesting. You can see they leave their droppings in a very scattered way, so sometimes they're not very easy to see, but their tracks are very distinctive. And then a fun fact about rabbits and hares is they eat the first round of poop. It is not fully digested, and so to get additional minerals and nutrients from it, they eat it again. So what we're looking at is the second dropping. Recycled. It's recycled, yes. And I've got examples of some of these that I've collected, so you can see like the size difference between a jackrabbit and a desert cottontail. This photo I love of the bear tracks. It is not mine. I took that off of Tucson Hikes. It just came out like 2 weeks ago. I saw that and had to have it because I love mud. It really shows tracks well, and you can see the black bear tracks, you can see coyote tracks, you can see a deer bounding through the mud, and there's at least 2 different species of bird in this mud. And then the bear poop here that I took is one of our local springs up in the hills here, and I just took that a few weeks ago. And as we know, we've had bears all over here all summer long in our grocery stores. So it's been kind of a crazy summer with the bears. Mountain lion tracks all over around here. These were also up in our local trails, and this was after a snow, so about 24 hours after a snow. Kathy and I were up hiking just in the hills up here, and these were very fresh. The one next to my foot was up on Titanic Rock, on the rock, and the other ones were further up the trail. And this is kind of a look at the terrain we were in, and these tracks were going off on the right, and we didn't go through there. We went off to the left. I haven't seen, since that picture was taken, I haven't seen much sign of mountain lions up there. I did hear that somebody was hunting up there, and that may have moved them out of there for various reasons, but I did recently see a mountain lion track up there. It was in the sand. This is very hard to see, but once you know what a mountain lion track looks like, you can tell it even if you don't have a lot of the distinguishing features. This is really, really old mountain lion scat, and I like it because you can really see the animal fur in it. You can see some of the features of the scat still there, other than the hair, but that is very clearly mountain lion poop. And that was up on a high trail in Madera Canyon. It couldn't have been anything else but that. Mountain lions in SaddleBrooke. This picture was taken a long time ago by not me. My dad sent this to me when I moved into SaddleBrooke, and we had been talking about mountain lions. I have no idea how long this has been circulating around, but this was an email, and it's a very poor picture because it's been, yeah. Bobcats are another amazing creature that we have all over SaddleBrooke, and the fact with these guys is that I was talking to a researcher here in Tucson, and she told me that there are more bobcats in the city of Tucson and outlying areas in an urban setting than there is in any other city in North America. So that is really kind of cool. And they're not really afraid of us. As you can see, this is my parents' house. Their back patio before they had it screened in. This was a mother bobcat and her two older kittens, and they hung out at my parents' house for a week. And they slept on our furniture, and they so enjoyed having them there, they didn't go outside for a week. The other one I saw at my house, and this one, bobcats can take down pretty large prey, 2 to 3 times their size. And this young bobcat was harassing a mule deer and her new fawn. Where I used to live in the HOA2 villas, there's no fences, there's easy access for all animals. I had all sorts of wildlife come through there. Mule deer were dropping their fawns right behind my house. And this guy was trying to get that fawn, but mother deer was having none of it. So this is the same bobcat having a drink at my water. You can see there's tracks. I see their tracks everywhere. And when I see scat, I'm almost always seeing bobcat scat. It's everywhere. This is one hike, and all along the trail, or 2 hikes, and all along the trail I was just seeing lots of different bobcat poop. And this is there's one in the sand with the scrape. They often make scrapes. And then they're different colors depending on what they've been eating or how old they are. Coyotes, we know we have lots of coyotes here. They are kind of the bane of any neighborhood. We always got to watch out for them with our small pets. These guys, both these pictures were taken by my husband. He spends a lot of time walking on the golf course, and he's gotten to know a lot of the coyotes out there, and they are not really afraid of him, and he can get pretty close. I don't know if you can see it, but this one coyote is tossing a mouse up in the air. They eat a tremendous number of rodents. Can you see that? Yeah. And that little deposit of poop there, I just saw 2 nights ago. It was at my old house. I went over there because I'm like, I need some more photos. So I went over there and to see what I could find, and I actually found quite a few things to photograph. So it was probably, that's coyote poop. Coyote poop, I know it's the $64 million question around here. Is this dog poop? Are my neighbors not picking up their dog poo? Well, mostly what we're seeing is wildlife poo. So hopefully later on we'll be able to kind of distinguish that. Up in Alaska, there's this pond. I will go a long way out of my way to go check out a pond like this with all this beautiful mud around it because it's going to record a lot of animal activity. If you can see in the lower photo, are a lot of tracks in there. And sure enough, I went down there and a little semi-palmated plover was digging around. And then these are Arctic ground squirrels, which are all over Alaska and introduced into the town of Unalaska. Which didn't have them before, but fox farmers in the 1880s brought them in thinking, oh, what a great idea. We'll feed the foxes, but the squirrels have now taken over the island. My husband stepped in one of their holes and broke his ankle. Another place around that pond, I found fox tracks and raven tracks. Again, the raven tracks are older than the fox tracks, so probably no relation there, but this mud is great. So different substrates record tracks differently, as you saw on the sandy track. Didn't record it very well, but mud is amazing. Wet sand can be amazing, and snow is really great. So I go out of my way to seek these places out. And tracks in snow can be pretty interesting as well. So we had tons of foxes, so mostly what I was seeing in Alaska were foxes. And winter tracks can be fun because a fox will leave tracks all over the place, and then we get a wind, and it blows all the soft snow away, and it leaves the tracks in kind of a raised manner, so they're kind of a relief. So it's really fun to find those kind of things. And this is over in White Sands, New Mexico. The gypsum sand there is really amazing, and we found so many tracks all over there. You can see my tracks just recorded beautifully like they were in mud, and then the beetle tracks recorded there as well. Reptiles have very weird foot and leg configurations, as do insects, and they can leave really interesting tracks. The Gila monster and a desert tortoise here Those are the track pictures aren't mine, but I pulled those off the internet because they're really cool the way they show the scales on the bottom of the feet of the animals. Mule deer, we have lots of these. They're almost like rabbits, right? You're almost assured if you go looking for them, you will find them. It was like moose in Alaska. We have two deer here. We have the mule deer, we have the Coues white-tailed deer, and these are mule deer tracks and probably mule deer scat. These are a track of a mule deer that was moving pretty fast. It's got the front feet in front, back feet. Front feet are kind of splayed, but otherwise, if you just see it when it's walking, it'll be like an upside-down heart shape. Javelina. I just saw somebody posted on Nextdoor that on Northwood, 2 trash cans got tipped over yesterday. These guys are pretty menacing. They go after everything. If they think they can eat it, they will. These guys on the upper right, these are the first javelina I saw when I moved into Tucson. And they were habituated. They walked right up to me. I had a fence between me, but they were expecting something. Javelinas leave latrines, and this picture of this latrine is behind my old house. It was in my yard. It smelled like a cattle yard when we moved in because there was so much javelina poo back there. They spent a lot of time there. It was probably an area where 2 groups of javelina kind of overlapped, and they would both come through there, so this was a form of communication for the javelinas. Raccoons and coatis. People are pretty surprised that we have raccoons here. I was pretty surprised. This is a trail cam shot from my house, and they were out there enjoying some water. And the tracks I took a picture of, they were right up in the hills up here, so they are around, and they've been around a lot more lately, I think. Coatis, I think they're around here too. I have not seen any sign of these. This coati was photographed down in Madera Canyon at the Santa Rita Lodge. If you've never been to the Santa Rita Lodge, it's a great place to see turkeys and coatis. This guy, I think they had to relocate. He became a pest. Other signs of animals, there's quite a lot out there. This is a praying mantis egg case. I see a lot of these around here. I've had them on my house, and I have lots of praying mantises, so I thought that was kind of cool. And I actually brought one if people want to look at it. You've probably all seen the praying mantises when they emerge and grow and start taking down insects. They like to hang out on hummingbird feeders. The hummingbirds don't like them. I'm not sure these praying mantis would go after a hummingbird, but I have seen them take bees that were coming to the hummingbird feeder. These guys are one of my favorite birds. These are so interesting, and they are all over in our Sky Islands. This is an acorn woodpecker, kind of a clown of the forest. You hear them before you see them. I've never seen this tree anywhere before except in Ash Canyon in the Galiero Mountains. And this is what they call a granary tree. And acorn woodpeckers live in family groups, and many generations together, they all help raise babies. They all nest in one nest. A bunch of females will lay eggs together, and they raise the young together. And they will fill these trees with acorns. The acorns will shrink in size, and they will actually move the acorns around to the right size fitting hole. They send guards on these trees, and they will actually, as a group, go and attack a neighboring group for their granary tree. They'll try and drive them out if resources are low. There's been a lot of studies on these birds. They're really interesting. And you can see these birds in Madera Canyon. I've never really looked for a granary tree there, but there's none on the trails. But this one was really obvious. There were a couple trees there that were just riddled with their holes. Muskrat nest, people have probably seen these before, traveling around. That was, again, I was stuck in COVID and spending a lot of time outside. Snakes, we're all interested in snakes around here. I have so many times almost stepped on a snake, and it's because they're doing this. They're nestled down into the sand. I don't know if you can see the little ridge of sand. You can see the little ridge of sand there, kind of between the beetle and the snake. And they nestle down in there, and they'll wait for hours for a rat to go by, a rat or hopefully not an unsuspecting human. I literally stepped on him. Usually I walk by, the person behind me yells, and then I turn around and take a picture. So this was on the Dripping Springs Trail, and this was not that long ago. This was in September. This was the first rattlesnake I encountered, and this was over in Fort Bowie National Historic Area. And again, I almost stepped on him. He was right on the trail. I don't know if he's in this picture. Can you see him in here? Because I didn't see him. My husband yelled. He's kind of in the lower. He's kind of right about here, about level with my finger. Yeah, he's kind of pink, and he blended in with the pink sand. Can you see him? Yes, that's him. Yeah. So they are almost invisible. I have come so close to so many rattlesnakes. I hate to say it, but I'm not quite as afraid of them as I used to be, but I should probably still be wary. This was pretty cool. This was also in Catalina State Park in White Sands. These are solitary bees excavating little nests. And they're solitary in that each bee is digging its own individual hole in which it'll lay eggs and then put pollen in for the larva. The picture on the right was supposed to be a little movie. I took a little movie of the bee excavating its hole. So those are pretty cool. Have we all seen these? Do we know what these are? I hear this from time to time on Nextdoor. People complain about what's going on with my agave. But these are where the mule deer bucks go to rub the velvet off their antlers. Back in HOA2 Villas again, where I used to live, we used to have a lot of agaves, and the deer were all over in there. We had lots of big bucks because they were all coming to do this. This was again behind my house, because they've taken almost all of these out, and I was fortunate to find that because it's kind of pretty cool, and I feel kind of bad that they've taken all these agaves out. Animals also make a lot of runs, and where we aren't very present on trails, so if we don't use the trails a whole lot, you'll see a lot more runs. The run on the left is a javelina run on one of our newer trails in the local area here, and there's a lot of animal sign up there, and I actually was up there like at 5 o'clock, the sun had set, I'm a mile and a half out by myself where I shouldn't be, and I actually ran into a javelina on this trail as I was going back. And I just kind of like talked him into going around me, and he did. I later ran into a bull and a rattlesnake on the trail as well. The bull was pleasant, the rattlesnake surprised, and he turned around and left. The other picture is a run of an Arctic ground squirrel. Animals like trails. They like trails just like we do. And so this is why a lot of animal sign is on the trails we use. One of the things that really amazed me is long time ago, I went to North Dakota, I think it's Teddy Roosevelt National Park, in some of the Badlands there. And the trails there made by the elk and the bison and the pronghorns were amazing. These huge trails, and I just kind of pictured, well, this must be what the West looked like when Lewis and Clark came through before we ran off all the animals into the mountains. Dust bathing and digging are also signs of that animals have been around. The one on the left is a picture from a local trail that it's a really old diggings, but it could be badger, it could be bear. There are no signs of the animals around anymore, but it's a pretty distinctive digging that goes all around under this plant. It's probably not a fox den or anything like that, but it looked like the animal was after something. The picture on the right is on the trail. This is a trail that's newer, and so it's not as defined, but these little dust bowls were in there, and quail make these, but lizards also use them, and so sometimes if a quail hasn't been there recently, you'll see signs of lizards in these. Lizard tracks, lizard tail marks, some of the little whiptails and eared lizards that live in the trees like to come down and dust bathe. So how do we identify tracks and scat? The first thing you want to do is kind of think about your context. Where are you? Are you in the mountains? Are you in a wash? Are you on a rolling rocky plain? Just are you on a river? The context is going to tell you a lot about what animals might be around. Then you're going to look at and this goes for tracks and scat. So the size and the shape and distinguishing features are all going to tell you what these animals are. And if you're looking at scat, I challenge you to check out what's in it. It's kind of fun. And I've got a really good scat example here that I didn't even know. I just picked it up. It was really old. I'm like, I don't want to take this. I don't know what it is. I thought it was maybe a raccoon or something, or maybe even like a quaddy or something. I don't know. But it was. I just put it in a bag and I brought it. And when I was putting it in the little box, I noticed it was full of wasps. It was really crazy. It's all these wasp wings. There's even a wasp head in it. It was really cool. So that will tell you kind of what animal that might be. So felines versus canines. This is the big question everybody likes to know. These are ones we see a lot around here. So the overall size of these will tell you a lot. It'll kind of eliminate some. So bobcats, well, dogs have a lot of variability, right? So, but we're not taking our dogs out on trails a lot around here because it's just not healthy for them. Bobcats and mountain lions are very round. They're big. Mountain lions are big. They're like the size of the palm of my hand for most of them. And bobcats are smaller, but they're going to be round in shape, toes that aren't in a line for the cats, and they're not going to have any claw marks. And for dogs and coyotes, this picture doesn't show it too well, but they have more of a triangular shape overall. And your middle toes are kind of lined up together. Then another big thing is with the metatarsal pad of the toes. Mountain lions and bobcats, all cats have a three-lobed appearance at the base. And then dogs and coyotes will have no lobes or just a couple lobes that are very indistinct. There's a trick with tracks that I use a lot now that I've kind of got the features done, and that is to look at the negative space between the toes and the pad. And cat tracks will have a semicircle, so that's the blue, have a semicircle there, and then the dog, you can kind of draw an X in that negative space. And so then this mountain lion tracks here versus a large dog track, you see the claw marks, the toes are even, and then you see those lobes at the bottom. Coyote tracks, got coyote track on the left, that's the one I took down in a wash about a month ago. And this one in the center is like, I thought it might be AI. It's almost too perfect for a mountain lion. It looks really good. The one on the right also has all the features of a mountain lion. And you can really see the big pads, the heel pads there. But overall size is really going to tip you off on those mountain lions because we don't have a lot of big dogs on trails here. Deer versus javelina, upside down, heart shape for deer tracks. And then the collared peccaries, javelinas, they're going to have more rounded toes. So they don't, you're going to have some overlap. I get turned around a lot when I'm up in the hills here where we've got the white-tailed deer because their fawns have really tiny tracks and they can look like a javelina track. And then just remember that these hooved animals, when they run, they do splay their toes, so they look a little bit different. So how do you tell coyote from bobcat or mountain lion scat? So foxes can also be in that category. So fox, bobcat, coyote, mountain lion are kind of on a gradation of size. There will be a little bit of overlap on the bobcat coyote side, but in general, there's a little bit of a gradation in size. Shape is key. Cats have segmented poo, so it comes out in little round-ended kind of cluster, just little balls almost. And as it gets older, it really breaks up into those balls. They have rounder ends, although the last one, where it comes out of the bum, might have a little bit of a point on it. Canines have a more tubular or tapered, and they will have a very long pointed end on them. Bobcats and mountain lions, this was something new I learned in the last year, but bobcats and mountain lions secrete kind of a mucus in their colon that coats the surface of the scat, and it gives it kind of a matte-like sheen. And once I kind of realized that, it's like, I got it. Now I'm seeing all bobcat poo, so because it's very distinctive, and I've got some examples of that here. All the wild animal poo you see from predators is likely to have hair, bone, bits or insects in them that distinguish it from dog scat. Dogs, we feed them kind of in a regular diet. It's not going to be chunky. It's not, and sometimes the color is different. So dog can be very variable, but wild animals will be dark to light in color. The dark indicating that they've recently fed on a kill. It's got more blood in it, and the light color kind of indicates more bone in it. So as an animal feeds on its prey, it's starting out with flesh and blood, and it's got some hair in it, and as it's finishing that animal, it's crunching into more of that bone. And I've got some of this here I can show you. There's some bobcat scat. You can see the segmented appearance, the one on the left. It's hard to tell in the photograph that it has kind of that sheen on it, but it's not very, you can't really see details on it. And the one on the right is a little chunkier, and you can see those round-ended segments. Foxes are pretty cool in that they like to mark their territory or trails, and all foxes and canines and bobcats will leave scat on trails, but foxes like to leave it in an elevated spot. So that's your first clue, it's a fox, because it's a key communicator. And you can see, Bruce, this is yours on the lower end. I added yours in there because that was a pretty cool scat. It's probably a fox, and then the one I took in Madera Canyon is also probably a fox. Foxes and especially coyotes, they have a varied diet. So one of the things we see a lot around here, we see like some scat with a lot of mesquite beans in it or other vegetable matter. Coyotes are omnivores, and they will eat almost anything that is going to fill them up. They will go after pretty much anything, and they'll do it on a seasonal basis. They know when the mesquites are dropping the mesquite beans, and they might 1 month be eating rabbits or rats, and then they're going to eat a lot of mesquite beans. And then the next month, it might be grasshoppers, and their scat will be full of the carapaces of grasshoppers. I found a really cool study that was done in Texas about this that was had some really cool pictures. They also make scrapes. So mountain lions, coyotes, and bobcats will all make scrapes. Mountain lions will tend to make a scrape with a lot of leaves and debris and make kind of a mound before they leave a scat or urine. Deer, desert cottontail, and black-tailed jackrabbit scat, we see a lot of that. We may not notice the jackrabbit or cottontail scat so much. Jackrabbit is larger, and I've got examples of this, of the cottontail and the jackrabbit here. If you want to see it, the jackrabbit is larger, and the shape of jackrabbit and cottontail scat is round. It's spherical, but deer is different, and it's roundish to oblong, and sometimes it has a little point on one end. And rabbits distribute their scat kind of widely spaced, but deer, they call it shotgun. It just like, it shoots out. And they leave a little pile for you to find. And like bighorn sheep will do the same thing, but the scat is different shapes, so you can tell that apart from those as well. And the color will be different between deer and rabbit, because the rabbit is that second round of scat, and it's lighter in color, whereas the deer will be darker. Javelina, as I mentioned, leave their scat in latrines. And it's kind of chunky. It's like, I've tried to think of how to describe it. It's like, it's nodules, and it's kind of, doesn't really have a distinct shape. It's kind of nodule, and they leave a lot of it. It's everywhere. We have a lot of skunks here. We have up to 5 species of skunks. I've only seen 1 or 2. One was at night. I thought it was a cone in the middle of the road in my headlights, because it was running straight down the middle of the road, and I'm like, what is that? And as I got closer to it, it revealed this fuzzy tail that was standing up. And again, it was in the villas, and it was darting in and out between the villas as I drove by, trying to get away. They have really cool little tracks. They look like little mini bear tracks in some ways. But a lot of the they're not rodents, but a lot of the animals like the coatis, the raccoons, and the skunks leave really weird looking kind of poo. It can be in a little pile. And this is a picture of what I think might be from a skunk right next to a very, very old bobcat Scat. And so you have any questions? Any questions about poop? Yes?
Owl pellets?
Owl pellets. So owl pellets are great. And I looked high and low for some owl pellets to show you guys and get some pictures of. So I ended up buying some on Amazon. You can buy them. I was very surprised about that. But you can buy owl pellets. And so I brought in, they come in a bag, wrapped up in foil. And these are actual wild owl pellets that have been collected in eastern Washington from known barn owl roosts. So I do have 2 of them, and I broke one apart so you could see little rodent bones, the fur, and the animal legs from the small animals that they were eating. So they will, if you have an owl, if you're lucky enough to have like a great horned owl roosting near you, check under that tree all the time, because this is something that is regurgitated. A number of raptors will do that, and sometimes some mammals will do that as well. And it's similar looking to scat, but once you start looking at it, it's pretty different.
We're all going to come up and look at the poop.
Yeah, come look at the poop. I brought a little loop too, so if you really want to get into that owl pellet, you can look or see the wasps in this poop.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.